Hello, SteepleCats fans. This is the SteepleCast with Corey Stolzenbach and James Atherlay. And before we get started, I have an apology for our listeners. I believe last week I said the SteepleCats were 2 wins and 2 losses with a game tie and a game suspended last year. I believe they actually had 4 wins last year instead of 2, so I apologize for that. Math never was my best subject. I don't know about James.
No, don't worry. Math was far from my best subject, too.
Okay, well, James, I see that on Wednesday and Thursday, the SteepleCats, they started to know each other, they started practicing. I really like some of the things that I saw. Coach Armstrong's having them doing some great fundamentals, and by the way, to our listeners, Coach Armstrong is the guest on the podcast this week, so be sure to listen to that. He was having to do some great defensive fundamentals, almost all situations possible. Situational bunting, man on first, man on second, with 1 out, 2 outs. You have guys in batting practice cranking it over the left field wall, almost at the scoreboard. So there's a lot of pop on this team, James. But I see guys that are doing 1-4-3, 4-6-3, standard double plays, having a man trying to cover third. They're having all the bases covered, if you will. So I have to say I'm very impressed with what I see so far from practice.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And you touched on hitting, because one of the first things that they did was defense, but eventually they got to hitting. They eventually got to batting practice. And a couple of players just put on a show, man. A couple of players just cranked home runs, and even today, Victor Sorrento, in his first day here, he hits a home run during batting practice, and that was just a bomb over the left field wall under the scoreboard. So, just great things coming from the SteepleCats in practice. They've only had a couple of days to know each other, to meet each other, but it already looks like, from my standpoint, they've already become friends. You know, they're willing to tolerate each other at least.
And if you ask me, James, it's not a matter of is this team talented. The question is can they take that talent and put it all together?
Oh yeah, absolutely, and that's the real big question here, because baseball it's so focused on one player at a time, but that one player gets up knowing that his team's behind him and knowing that, you know, if there may be someone after him if he gets out that can deliver, you know, or something like that. And the entire team is so defensively is so focused on the pitcher and making sure he feels good on the mound, and you know, things like that. So that is what makes getting to know each other this early so important for the team this season.
Speaking of defense, they're doing some catcher drills, some blocking drills in practice on Thursday. Logan Boyer is now the team's third catcher after Logan Heiser is out with an injury. He's joining Joseph Burns and Rob Calabrese. And James, how about the practice Rob Calabrese had on Wednesday? He was throwing perfect strikes. He was just brilliant behind the plate. And I'm not quite sure just yet who Armstrong's going with to be the opening catcher, but I have to say, Calabrese looks awfully impressive defensively.
He looks fantastic, and we touched on this a little bit while we were there yesterday, and some players had a little bit of a trouble side-arming their throw, which would make the ball tail in the exact direction you don't want it to go. Rob Calabrese had no problem throwing over the shoulder, straight down from a 12-6 angle, and his throws to the second base bag were exactly on point. He put on a show himself.
And I also like what I saw on Thursday with Jonah Bayless, the pitching coach and GM, what he's doing with the pitchers. He's also going to be the first base coach for a little bit while assistant Eric DeGree is in the high school playoffs. Good luck to him and his team.
Oh, yeah.
But he was hitting comebackers to his pitchers. He was having them having to run to cover first base, doing a lot of the great fundamentals. I really like that a lot. Infield, outfield drills, underhand to first, pitcher underhands, a toss to first. Really like that stuff a lot. Speaking of pitchers, we know who the first 3 pitching matchups or the first 3 pitchers are going to be for the SteepleCats this weekend. In Friday's game against Keene, it's going to be Matt Costellos. And what about a year that he had, James? The guy had a 2.11 ERA, 81 innings pitched. That led Thomas Aquinas in both categories. The guy can go the distance, 4 complete games. He had 1 shutout. a terrific strikeout-to-walk ratio of 83 to 21. Yeah. So if you ask me, this is the logical choice.
Oh, Matt Costellos is absolutely perfect for any CBL opening day. I think he might be the best pitcher to play on opening day. And I think that while Josh Guerin has had a fantastic year in his own right, I think personally that Costellos is the only choice for opening day starter for the Cats.
Well, the thing with Costellos is that he went a lot more innings than Guerin did.
Yes,
Guerin only went 52 innings. Costellos went 81 innings. So that's quite a marginal difference. They're quite significant, if you ask me.
Oh, yeah, it really, really is. And I think that's one of the reasons that he is the opening day starter. Aside from that 2.11 ERA, aside from the 83 strikes to only 21 walks, I think... Staying on the point, I think Costellos is the more experienced pitcher. Now, the thing is, Costellos and Guerin, both seniors, both with a lot of college baseball experience, but Costellos was able to take was able to go the distance a lot more than Guerin was.
And I'm going to make a bold prediction right now, James, and for our listeners. I'm not afraid to make bold predictions when it comes to Major League Baseball.
Nope.
So why should I do the same for the NECBL? Last year, I hosted my baseball show before the season began. I said, you know what? I think the Baltimore Orioles are going to win the American League East. The people who were on the show with me, they both disagreed. They both said the Red Sox. Red Sox were in last place. Orioles won the division. They went to the ALCS. They got swept by the Royals, but it was very close. It was closer than the game results indicated. Then this year in 2015, I said the Dallas Cowboys going to win the American League Cy Young. Still some baseball to go still, but hey, that's looking very good so far.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say Matt Costellos, he is going to break Scott Squire's record of 70 strikeouts in a season for the SteepleCats.
Wow, that's a bold prediction. I think it has some. I think you have some. I think you have some credit there with that decision, and the reason for that was because he threw 81 innings in the collegiate season, 83 strikeouts. If he throws 7 innings a game for maybe 10 starts, we're not sure how long he's actually going to get and how many starts he's actually going to get. But he has a very good chance. A strikeout an inning. If he goes 70 innings, he could get there.
And a word of note for our listeners, Scott Squire 2 years ago, he only had 45 strikeouts at Hawaii before he had 70 strikeouts with the SteepleCats. Mm-hmm. And plus, it's a tougher league because it's different from college. These are wooden bats now as opposed to aluminum bats in college. Yep. So I'm going with Costellos. He's going to break the single-season strikeout record for the SteepleCats. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I'm throwing that out there right now. Josh Guerin goes for North Adams on Saturday. He was a tough-luck pitcher, 4-3 record, but he wasn't that bad despite the record. And Parker Perez is going on Sunday, opener at Joe Wolf Field. Had a pretty high ERA, can also play the outfield. He's a position player, so I do wonder if he's better utilized for a position player than as a pitcher, but we shall see what happens. Anything can happen. And time now for the very first segment that we're debuting on the SteepleCast called the Alumni Update, where we each week give you an update on you, the listeners, on former SteepleCats who've made it to the majors. There have been 7 of them. And James, how about Evan Scribner? Evan Scribner, he got the relief for the A's against the Yankees May 28th. Your Yankees, by the way.
Don't give me away. I've been caught. I gotta go.
Okay, it was a 5-4 win. Yeah, he got the win. It was his first decision of the season. He's a setup man. Guy's got 6 holds, and a hold is just like a save in the 9th inning. And just like with closers, a setup man cannot create their own hold situation. You cannot create your own save situation. It has to be 3 runs or fewer. You cannot do the same for holds. He's had his best year yet. He's great with fielding independent pitching, creating a lot of strikeouts. Great whip, walks plus hitting per innings pitched. A great strikeout-to-walk ratio. And then his most recent outing was June 2nd against the Tigers. 2 innings of no-hit relief. With Sean Doolittle on the disabled list, maybe he'll get a closing job someday, who knows. But his ERA right now is at 2.05. Mm-hmm. And James, there have been 7 former SteepleCats who've made it to the majors. None of them have been an all-star so far. I think Scribner's got an excellent case this year.
he has a fantastic case. Who do you see in the majors, at least in the Major League bullpen, with an ERA that low, 2.05, who isn't a closer? That's the thing about being a relief pitcher. Yeah, there are a lot of really, really good ones. 2.05 after the years that he has had, 4.39 in 2013, 4.63 in 2014. Those were not great. This is great. I think he's figured out how to be a bullpen pitcher.
Well, off the top of my head, I think of Wade Davis of last year, who had an ERA of 1.
Yeah.
And I think Dellin Betances of your Yankees was he was pretty low last year, too.
Dellin Betances hadn't given a run up yet, to my knowledge.
Yeah, he and Andrew Miller have been lights out in the Bronx. Okay.
Yeah, they have.
Your next alumni, his most recent game, Bobby Wilson. Mind you, the first ever Steeplecat to make it to the Rangers is on the Rays now. He collected an RBI single on May 31st. Tampa won 9-5 over the Orioles. And they are 28-26. The Rays are entering Thursday, a game back of the Yankees. So it's a very tight-knit AL East race right there. And then finally, a few very nice games in succession for Joe Smith of the Angels. Got the whole May 30th, 8-6 win over the Tigers. To close out May, he got the win in relief with 4-2 in the final. He's got a record now of 2-2. Then he picked up his 15th hole June 1st against the Rays, 7-3 the final. And as of June 4th, they are 28-26 also, but they are 6 back of Houston. So fundamentally different races in the AL West and the AL East. But coming up next, we're going to talk to Coach Mike Armstrong. Stay tuned. You're listening to the SteepleCast. Okay, well, I'm here with SteepleCats head coach Mike Armstrong. And Mike, I really do thank you for joining me. You've known these guys for a few days now. What is your biggest assessment, or what have you noticed from this team, both skill-wise and character-wise?
Yeah, so far so good. The guys are a great group of guys. So far that I can tell, everybody's here for the right reasons, to play ball and compete and get better and hopefully try and get to the next level. Skill-wise, I think we should be pretty talented. There's some guys that can do a little bit of everything. We have a few players that both pitch and hit, so we'll have some flexibility there with the lineup.
Where do you plan to use these guys at?
The guys that do both, Parker Perez will be starting on Monday, so he's going to be a starting pitcher for us. Mike Babb is going to be relief out of the pen and mostly play outfield. And then Eglund will play a little bit of first, a little bit of outfield, and pitch a little bit for us.
Isn't it Sunday? Because I thought you said that he was going to pitch.
Oh, yeah, Sunday. Sorry, third game. Yeah, third game.
So who are you going with on Monday? Do you know yet?
I don't know yet. I'm not sure. We'll have to do some planning.
You're also the hitting coach at Amherst. So what's the biggest step up or the biggest transition to go from an assistant coach to a head coach?
I think the biggest transition is having your finger on the pulse of everything at once. At Amherst, I do have my hands in a lot of different pots. I coach third base, and when we're on offense, and I do the hitters. But traditionally, I focus mostly on the offense and don't spend much time with the defensive side in terms of practice and things like that. So. Being a head coach, it's important to have all your ducks in a row and be organized so the guys know what they're doing and where they're going at the right times. So I think that's the biggest transition, is just making sure that you have an eye on everything within the program at once.
If you could have anyone at Amherst on the team this summer, who would it be?
Yanni Thanopoulos. He's an outfielder for us, a great hitter, good player, hard-nosed player that competes every day.
You've talked before a lot of times about Sparky Anderson, Tony La Russa. You love how they're player managers. You love their styles. So which active big league skipper do you think best fits your philosophy?
I think the best active skipper is probably Mike Matheny or Joe Madden. Tough. Joe Madden's definitely there for his players. He tries all those crazy ideas to get the players going, and it usually works. He definitely knows what he's doing. But Mike Matheny, I think, probably ahead of him, because he was a catcher, just like me. He was actually my favorite player when I was younger, when he was still playing. But Mike Matheny, the Cardinals always have a good team that pulls for each other, plays like a team and plays baseball the right way, and I think when a team does that, you got to give credit to the skipper.
Yes, and they have great development, but also there's a lot of other successful catchers around the big leagues. What makes Matheny different from the other catchers who have succeeded? Because let's face it, like you have Bruce Bochy, a former catcher himself, who's won 3 world titles. Matheny has yet to win one. So what makes him different for you than other catchers in the big leagues who are now managers?
Yeah, I think it's his he kind of is cut from the same cloth as Tony La Russa, being that he was his manager for a while. I think it's just the way he manages himself during the games. He's very calm and cool and collected, but he also has that fire in him, just like me, and you see it come out every once in a while, and I think the players need to see that too, whether it's supporting them on a tough call by the umpire or whether it's letting them know when they shouldn't be doing something that they're doing. I think you need to have that fire. Not that the other guys don't, but I like the way he manages it.
Last question, we wanted to give fans the opportunity to ask you any questions for this podcast, and so we got a question from perhaps the biggest SteepleCast fan of all, that being Slider.
Awesome.
He wants to know, are you a Cats person or a Dogs person?
Oh, I'm a Cats person all day long. Let's go Cats.
Excellent, Mike. Thank you for joining me. Really appreciate it.
No problem.
For this is the end of the SteepleCast. For James Atherlay, I am Corey Stolzenbach. Have a good one, everybody.